Respected. Before you believe that passion begins with touch, let me ask you something that may change the way you see love forever. What if the one thing most women secretly long for isn't a technique, a perfect body, or a rehearsed performance, but the feeling of being truly seen, emotionally safe, and deeply valued? Most men spend years trying harder while missing the one thing that silently speaks to a woman's heart. Today, I want to share a truth that has transformed countless relationships, not through tricks, but through understanding. If you've been told that great intimacy is about performance, then you've been carrying the wrong map. For years, I have listened to people from every stage of life, young couples excited about the future, married partners who have shared decades together, men who quietly admitted they no longer knew how to reconnect with the woman they loved, women who smiled in public but privately confessed that they felt emotionally invisible. The stories were different, the ages were different, but one pattern appeared again and again. Most men believed that intimacy begins with physical contact. Most women felt that intimacy begins long before that moment ever arrives. That difference changes everything. Imagine a husband who comes home after a long day. He walks through the door exhausted. His wife has also spent the entire day carrying responsibilities that nobody noticed. Dinner is ready. The children have finally gone to sleep. The house is quiet. The husband thinks, now we finally have time together. The wife thinks, I wish we had been together all day. Do you see the difference? One is waiting for the evening. The other has been waiting for connection since the morning. This misunderstanding is not about love. It is about awareness. Many good men fail not because they don't love their partners, but because they misunderstand how emotional closeness grows. A woman often notices the smallest details. She notices whether you listened when she spoke. She notices whether you remembered the little story she told you 3 days ago. She notices whether your eyes stay on your phone while she shares something important. She notices your patience. She notices your kindness. She notices your presence. And while these moments may seem ordinary, together they create something extraordinary. They build trust. Trust is invisible. You cannot buy it, you cannot fake it. And without trust, every attempt at closeness feels incomplete. Think about the greatest friendships in your life. Were they built in one conversation? Of course not. They were built through consistency. The same is true inside a loving relationship. Every small act of attention says, you matter. Every interrupted conversation silently says, something else matters more. People often underestimate the emotional memory of the heart. A heart remembers how it was treated long after it forgets the exact words that were spoken. I once heard a woman describe her marriage in a way I have never forgotten. She didn't complain that her husband wasn't hardworking. She didn't complain that he wasn't successful. She didn't complain that he wasn't loyal. She simply said, I miss being his favorite conversation. Those words stayed with me because they reveal a truth that statistics can never explain. Every human being wants to feel chosen, not only at the wedding, not only during anniversaries, but in ordinary Tuesdays, in simple breakfasts, in quiet evenings, in everyday life. Real connection is rarely built during grand romantic gestures. It grows during countless ordinary moments that most people overlook. When you ask a sincere question and truly wait for the answer. When you remember her favorite drink without being reminded. When you notice she seems quieter than usual. When you hold her hand without expecting anything in return. These moments tell a story. The story says, I see you. And being seen is one of the deepest emotional needs any person can experience. Many men have been taught to solve problems. When someone is hurting, they immediately search for answers. But sometimes a woman is not asking you to solve anything. Sometimes she simply wants you to understand. Imagine someone walking through heavy rain. You could immediately begin explaining weather patterns, or you could simply stand beside them and share your umbrella. One provides information, the other provides comfort. Relationships thrive on comfort. One of the greatest mistakes people make is believing that emotional connection is automatic after years together. It isn't. Love is not like a photograph that stays the same once it's taken. Love is more like a garden. Ignore it and weeds quietly appear. Care for it and beauty continues to grow. Many couples slowly stop asking meaningful questions. They discuss bills, schedules, appointments, responsibilities, but they stop asking, what made you smile today? What has been worrying you lately? What dream have you been keeping to yourself? Without realizing it, they become excellent business partners inside the same house, yet emotionally, they begin drifting apart. Distance rarely appears overnight. It arrives one unnoticed conversation at a time. Then one day someone says, "I don't know what happened." What happened was not one dramatic event. It was thousands of tiny moments where connection could have been chosen, but wasn't. There is a beautiful truth that every man should hear. The most memorable moments are often the simplest ones. Not expensive vacations, not perfect gifts, but the evening you laughed together until your stomach hurt, the unexpected hug in the kitchen, the conversation in the car that lasted long after you reached home, the quiet reassurance during a difficult week. These become emotional anchors. They remind two people why they chose each other. One elderly gentleman once shared something remarkable after nearly 50 years of marriage. He said, "I spent the first half of my marriage trying to impress my wife. I spent the second half trying to understand her. The second half was much happier." That wisdom deserves to be repeated. Understanding creates security. Security creates openness. Openness creates closeness. And closeness creates the kind of relationship that neither time nor age can easily weaken. There is another truth that surprises many people. Confidence is attractive, but kindness is unforgettable. Anyone can appear confident for a few hours. Kindness reveals itself every single day. It appears in patience, in respect, in gentle words during disagreements, in choosing understanding over winning an argument. The strongest man in a relationship is rarely the loudest one. Often, he is the one who knows when to listen, the one who chooses compassion before pride, the one who realizes that protecting a relationship is more valuable than protecting his ego. Because at the end of life, very few people remember who won the arguments, but everyone remembers who made them feel loved. Every meaningful relationship reaches moments where routine threatens connection. This is not failure. It is simply an invitation to become curious again, to notice again, to appreciate again, to remember that the person beside you is still growing, still changing, still carrying dreams, fears, hopes, and silent emotions that deserve your attention. The greatest form of foreplay is not something that begins in a bedroom. It begins in everyday life, with emotional presence, genuine curiosity, respect, affection, and making your partner feel safe, valued, and understood. When those foundations are present, physical intimacy often becomes a natural expression of an already strong emotional bond, rather than an attempt to create one. That is the quiet truth many people spend years searching for. There is a sentence I often wish every couple could hear before they begin searching for answers in books, videos, or conversations with strangers. People do not fall out of love all at once. More often, they slowly stop making each other feel emotionally important. That change is so gradual that many never notice it happening. A woman may continue smiling. She may continue caring for her family. She may continue fulfilling every responsibility. Yet inside, she quietly wonders, does he still notice me the way he once did? Most men hear those words and immediately think they need to do something extraordinary. Buy flowers, plan a vacation, arrange a surprise dinner. Those gestures are beautiful, but they cannot replace what is missing every single day. A relationship is strengthened less by occasional grand moments than by consistent emotional attention. Imagine walking past the same beautiful tree every morning. On the first day, you admire every branch. A month later, you barely notice it. The tree has not changed. Your attention has. The same thing happens in relationships. The person you once admired becomes familiar. Familiarity is not the enemy. Taking someone for granted is. Every woman wants to know that even after years together, she still matters in your eyes. Not because she has changed her appearance, not because she has done something remarkable, but simply because she is the person you chose. I remember hearing about a husband whose marriage had become painfully distant. He wasn't cruel. He wasn't dishonest. He worked hard and provided for his family. Yet his wife confessed that she felt lonely even while sitting beside him. When they began talking honestly, something unexpected emerged. She didn't ask for expensive gifts. She didn't ask for luxury vacations. She simply said, "I miss the man who used to ask me how my day really was." Think about those words. Not how your day was, but how your day really was. There is a difference. One question expects a routine answer. The other invites honesty. That single word opens the heart. Too many conversations stay on the surface because people are afraid to slow down. Life becomes a race. Wake up, work, commute, cook, clean, sleep, repeat. Days become weeks, weeks become years. Without realizing it, couples begin sharing responsibilities instead of sharing themselves. Yet the heart never stops longing to be understood. One of the greatest gifts you can offer another person is your full attention, not half attention, not attention interrupted by messages, not attention divided between conversation and television, complete attention. When someone feels completely heard, they often feel completely loved. Psychologists have long observed that emotional safety is one of the strongest foundations of lasting intimacy. When people know they can express joy, fear, disappointment, or vulnerability without being judged, trust deepens naturally. That emotional safety cannot be created in a single evening. It is built through hundreds of small moments. Moments when you choose patience instead of criticism, curiosity instead of assumptions, gentleness instead of sarcasm. These choices seem small, yet they quietly transform relationships. Have you ever noticed how children instinctively run toward the person who makes them feel safest? Adults are no different. Every human heart is searching for a place where it can finally stop pretending, where it can be imperfect without fear, where mistakes are met with understanding instead of humiliation. Women often describe emotional closeness in exactly those terms: feeling accepted, feeling appreciated, feeling emotionally protected. That protection has nothing to do with physical strength. It comes from words, from consistency, from reliability, from knowing that the person beside them will not use their vulnerability against them during the next disagreement. Many men unknowingly make a painful mistake. When a woman shares frustration, they defend themselves before understanding her feelings. Immediately, walls begin rising. The conversation changes from connection to competition. Instead of asking, "Why do you feel this way?" the focus becomes, "Let me explain why I'm right." But relationships are not courtrooms. Love is not about proving innocence. It is about protecting connection. Sometimes the strongest response is not an explanation. Sometimes it is simply saying, "I didn't realize you felt that way. Tell me more." Those 4 words can change the entire direction of a conversation. They communicate humility. They communicate respect. Most importantly, they communicate love. There is another lesson that age teaches better than youth ever can. Affection is not measured by dramatic declarations. It is measured by consistency. A gentle touch on the shoulder while walking past, a warm smile across the room, remembering something important without being reminded, saying thank you for everyday efforts that often go unnoticed. Many people underestimate gratitude, yet gratitude reminds someone that their presence still makes a difference. Imagine preparing meals for years without hearing appreciation. Imagine supporting someone through difficult times without acknowledgement. Eventually, even the strongest heart grows tired. Appreciation is emotional nourishment. Without it, relationships become emotionally hungry. One elderly woman shared something unforgettable. She smiled as she looked at her husband and said, "The reason I still feel young is because he still looks at me like he did when we first met." Notice what she valued. Not expensive jewelry, not extravagant celebrations. She treasured the way he looked at her, the way he made her feel. That is something every man can offer, regardless of his income, career, or age. Presence costs nothing. Kindness costs nothing. Respect costs nothing. Yet together they become priceless. Another misunderstanding deserves attention. Many people believe romance fades because attraction disappears. Often the opposite is true. Attraction weakens because emotional connection has slowly been neglected. When people laugh together, dream together, support one another, celebrate small victories, and comfort each other during difficult seasons, their emotional bond grows stronger. That emotional closeness naturally strengthens physical intimacy because each partner feels secure, valued, and connected. The goal is never to perform. The goal is to understand. To create an atmosphere where affection feels genuine rather than expected, where closeness grows from mutual care instead of pressure. The happiest couples rarely claim they never faced hardships. Instead, they say they kept choosing each other through those hardships, every single day, again and again. Even when life became busy, even when careers demanded attention, even when children filled every hour. They remembered that before they were parents, before they were providers, before they carried endless responsibilities, they were two people who simply wanted to know each other's hearts. That desire should never disappear, because love does not remain alive by accident. It remains alive through intentional acts of attention, empathy, appreciation, and emotional presence. When a woman feels emotionally safe, genuinely heard, deeply respected, and consistently valued, she often becomes more open to every other form of closeness. And that is the truth so many overlook. The deepest connection begins not with what you do in a single moment, but with how you make someone feel every day. As the years pass, something quietly changes in every relationship. The excitement of the beginning slowly gives way to the comfort of familiarity. At first, familiarity feels beautiful. You know each other's favorite meals. You finish each other's sentences. You understand each other's routines without speaking a word. But familiarity carries a hidden danger. It can make us stop noticing the very person who once captured our full attention. The greatest relationships are not those where people never change. They are the ones where two people keep discovering each other, even after many years. Think about your closest friend. You still ask them what they've been thinking about. You still become curious about their experiences. Yet in marriage or a long-term relationship, many people unknowingly stop asking meaningful questions. They assume they already know everything. But no human being remains the same. Every year brings new hopes, new fears, new disappointments, new dreams. The woman you met years ago is not exactly the same woman sitting beside you today. Life has shaped her. Responsibilities have changed her. Successes have strengthened her. Difficult seasons may have quietly wounded her. If you stop being curious, you stop discovering who she is becoming. One husband once admitted something with tears in his eyes. He said, "I knew every detail about my job, but I no longer knew what was happening inside my wife's heart." That confession carried incredible wisdom. Many people become experts in their careers while becoming strangers inside their own homes. The greatest investment you will ever make is not only in your profession, it is in the person who walks through life beside you. Imagine spending years building a beautiful house. Every wall is perfect, every room is carefully designed, but you never maintain the foundation. Eventually, cracks begin to appear. Relationships work the same way. The visible problems are rarely the real problems. Distance, arguments, silence, frustration. These are often only symptoms. The true foundation is emotional connection. When the foundation is cared for, the rest becomes much easier to repair. There is another lesson that deserves your attention. Many men believe strength means hiding emotions. They believe vulnerability makes them appear weak. But countless women describe something very different. They often feel closer to a man who is honest about his fears than to one who always pretends everything is perfect. Authenticity builds intimacy. Pretending builds distance. No one expects perfection. People long for sincerity. There is extraordinary courage in saying, "I've been stressed lately. I've been worried. I don't always have the answers." Those words do not diminish respect. When shared with honesty and emotional maturity, they often deepen trust, because they invite the other person to be equally honest. Relationships become strongest when neither partner feels they must wear a mask. One evening, an elderly couple was asked the secret behind their 60 years together. Everyone expected a complicated answer. Instead, the husband smiled gently and said, "We never stopped saying thank you." The room became silent. Such a simple habit, yet so powerful. Gratitude protects relationships from becoming ordinary. When appreciation disappears, people begin feeling invisible. When appreciation is spoken regularly, people continue feeling valuable. Never underestimate the power of noticing everyday efforts. Notice the meal prepared with care. Notice the long day she endured without complaining. Notice the little things she does that make your life easier. People rarely become exhausted from giving. They become exhausted from giving without feeling appreciated. Respect is another language of love. Respect is not shown only during peaceful moments. Its true character appears during disagreements. Anyone can speak kindly when everything is going well. Character reveals itself when opinions differ. You will not always agree. No relationship does. But you always have a choice about how disagreement is expressed. Words spoken in anger often leave scars that apologies cannot completely erase. Before speaking, ask yourself one simple question. Will these words solve the problem, or will they simply create another wound? Sometimes silence for a few moments is wiser than speaking immediately. Not because you wish to avoid the conversation, but because you value the relationship more than the argument. Many women quietly say that one of the qualities they admire most is emotional steadiness. Not a man who never feels emotion, but a man who manages his emotions with wisdom. Calmness creates safety. Patience creates trust. Gentleness creates openness. These qualities cannot be purchased. They are developed one decision at a time. Every conversation becomes an opportunity to strengthen or weaken your connection. Every reaction teaches your partner whether it is safe to be vulnerable with you. Choose your responses carefully. They become part of your relationship's emotional memory. Another truth often surprises people. Laughter is one of the most overlooked forms of intimacy. Think back to the happiest moments of your relationship. They were probably not perfect. Perhaps dinner burned. Perhaps the vacation went completely wrong. Perhaps you got lost somewhere together. Yet years later, those moments become treasured memories because you laughed together. Shared laughter reminds two people that life is not only about responsibilities, it is also about joy. Do not allow adulthood to steal your ability to be playful. Smile more, share stories, create moments that have no purpose other than enjoying each other's company. Those seemingly ordinary moments often become unforgettable. One woman once explained why she still felt deeply connected to her husband after decades together. She said, "He never stopped trying to make me smile." Notice that she did not say he never made mistakes. She did not say life had always been easy. She remembered his effort. Love is remembered through consistent effort, not flawless performance. Every relationship experiences seasons. There are seasons of excitement, seasons of challenge, seasons of waiting, seasons of healing. Wise couples understand that difficult seasons are temporary. They do not allow temporary struggles to define permanent decisions. Instead, they keep watering the relationship even when growth is not immediately visible. Farmers understand this better than most. They plant seeds long before they see the harvest. Relationships require the same patience. Kind words spoken today may heal tomorrow. Respect shown today may strengthen trust months from now. Listening today may prevent loneliness years later. Never believe that small acts are insignificant. Small acts repeated consistently become the foundation of extraordinary love. Perhaps the greatest misunderstanding about intimacy is believing it begins with physical closeness. In reality, lasting intimacy begins when two people feel emotionally safe enough to reveal their true selves without fear of judgment. When a woman knows she is respected in public and in private, when she knows her thoughts matter, when she knows her emotions will be met with compassion instead of dismissal, when she knows she is cherished not only for what she does but for who she is, a deep sense of connection naturally grows. And that kind of connection cannot be imitated. It is earned through patience, protected through respect, strengthened through kindness, and renewed every single day through intentional love. There comes a moment in every lasting relationship when both people must decide what kind of love they want to build. Do they want a love that depends on excitement alone? Or do they want a love that grows deeper with every passing year? The first kind is easy to begin. The second kind is worth a lifetime. I have often noticed that the happiest couples are not those who never face disappointment. They are the ones who refuse to let disappointment become the final chapter of their story. Every relationship experiences misunderstandings. Every relationship encounters stress. There are seasons when work demands more attention than expected. There are moments when health becomes uncertain. There are days when both people feel exhausted before the conversation even begins. These challenges do not automatically destroy love. What matters most is how two people choose to respond to them. Imagine two travelers climbing the same mountain. The path becomes steep. The weather changes. Both are tired. One walks ahead without looking back. The other reaches out a hand and says, "We'll get there together." Both face the same mountain. Only one strengthens the relationship while climbing it. Love has never been measured by how easy life becomes. It has always been measured by how faithfully people stand beside each other when life becomes difficult. Many men spend years asking themselves what they should do differently. Perhaps the better question is, how can I help the woman I love feel more understood today than she felt yesterday? That question changes everything, because it shifts attention away from performance and toward partnership. When people stop trying to impress each other and begin trying to understand each other, relationships begin to flourish. Understanding requires curiosity. Curiosity requires humility. Humility requires love. These qualities cannot be forced. They are chosen every single day. There is a beautiful habit I encourage every couple to practice. At the end of each day, before sleep, ask one simple question. What is one thing I did today that made you feel loved? Then listen, not to defend yourself, not to explain yourself, simply to learn. The answer may surprise you. Perhaps it was the way you smiled before leaving for work. Perhaps it was remembering something she mentioned during breakfast. Perhaps it was sitting quietly beside her after a difficult day. Very often, the moments we consider ordinary become the moments another person treasures most. Likewise, ask another question. What is one thing I could do better tomorrow? Do not fear the answer. Growth is not criticism. Growth is an invitation to love more wisely. Every meaningful relationship is built by two imperfect people who remain willing to learn. Perfection has never been the goal. Progress has. There is another lesson that becomes clearer with age. Time is the most valuable gift you will ever give another human being. Money can be earned again, success can be rebuilt, possessions can be replaced. But an hour spent listening with genuine presence can never be recreated once it has passed. That is why attention has become one of the rarest forms of love in modern life. We live in a world filled with constant notifications. Screens compete for our focus. Schedules become overwhelming. Without realizing it, we sometimes offer strangers our full attention while giving the people we love only what remains. Reverse that habit. Protect moments where conversation is uninterrupted. Share meals without distractions whenever possible. Walk together, laugh together, reflect together. These simple choices quietly strengthen emotional closeness over time. One elderly woman once shared something that moved everyone listening. She said, "My husband never remembered every anniversary perfectly. He forgot birthdays once or twice. He wasn't a perfect man, but every single day he made me feel like I mattered." That was the memory she carried. Not flawless performance, consistent love. That is what people remember at the end of life. Not how expensive the gifts were, not how impressive the vacations looked in photographs. They remember how safe they felt, how respected they felt, how deeply they were loved. There is a quiet strength in choosing tenderness. Some people mistake gentleness for weakness. In reality, gentleness requires remarkable self-control. It takes strength to stay calm during conflict. It takes strength to apologize sincerely. It takes strength to forgive without keeping score. These acts are not signs of defeat, they are signs of emotional maturity. And emotional maturity creates the kind of relationship where both people can continue growing together instead of growing apart. Remember this truth whenever you begin to feel that routine has replaced romance. Romance is not something that disappears with time. It is something that quietly follows attention. Where attention goes, affection grows. Where appreciation grows, trust deepens. Where trust deepens, emotional closeness naturally becomes stronger. And when emotional closeness is nurtured with respect, kindness, and mutual care, physical intimacy often becomes a meaningful expression of that bond rather than its foundation. If there is one lesson I hope stays with you long after this conversation ends, it is this. The greatest form of foreplay is not a secret technique. It is the way you make someone feel throughout the ordinary moments of everyday life. It is listening without rushing. It is speaking with kindness. It is noticing what others overlook. It is protecting your partner's dignity during disagreements. It is choosing patience over pride. It is making the person beside you feel emotionally safe enough to be completely themselves. Because when someone feels deeply valued, genuinely respected, consistently appreciated, and wholeheartedly loved, the relationship becomes more than a partnership. It becomes a place of peace, a place of trust, a place where two imperfect people continue choosing each other day after day, year after year. And in a world that often teaches us to chase perfection, perhaps the greatest achievement is much simpler: to become the kind of person whose presence makes the one you love feel at home.